Hi, Mike. I just wanted to record this video for you to explain these slides that we provided. We updated from last week. So anyway, for the AHC Consortium and the Multi-State Fleet Response Working Group. So the Fleet Response Working Group is a mechanism established by the states on the East Coast and the private sector to act as a framework to operate in the middle of these four entities, if you will, federal and state government, as well as industry and the solution providers. The whole thing is to get information sharing moving quicker, to get the business back to business, communities back to normal as fast as possible following a disaster. So the consortium is a 501c3. Started in 2005. It's a state-sanctioned nonprofit. It has over 16,000 stakeholders nationwide. It facilitates blue sky day activities as well as dark sky day activities to support power restoration, cybersecurity, sensitive information sharing, research development transition into the private sector, and then custom solution development between states and the private sector. It's operated with a number of working groups and a board of directors that oversee that. And specifically, as I said before, it focuses in those four areas: disaster management, sensitive information sharing, cybersecurity, and research transition into the field. So what does the AHC do? Blue Sky Day, it serves as a integration mechanism to bring public and private together on specific issues, identify a problem within a sector or multiple sectors, work that problem into solutions, short term, meaning 3 to 6 months. Long term is 6 to 12 months, and medium term, rather, short, medium, and long term. So short term is 90 days, then 6 to 12 months, then 12 to 18 months. Why is it important? Because it provides the legal framework to share information without fears of FOIA or media or non-operational people getting involved. And it really controls the dialogue so that no one entity, government or private, dominate the conversation or get it off track. So it's able to produce working groups that move very fast to produce products. Some of you that have been around it have seen in the first year this group produced about 14 products in about as many months. And it's been really focused on working the whole information sharing issue since really Hurricane Sandy. But now that we have Harvey and Irma and Maria, it's really gotten a lot more into information sharing with regards to power restoration, logistics movement, drone information sharing, sensitive information sharing across state lines, fleet movement, transportation, finding warehouses and dry ice and commodities, as well as finding refrigeration facilities. And it's expanding its reach into the logistics sector as well, based on requests from its states and companies. So what were the major outcomes from Harvey, Irma, and Marie? The first one was really an operations center. We have been trying to find a tool or a set of tools that we could use operationally. To date, it was me and John Shaner and a few of you in the working group, Jim Nowak and others, where we took emails and sent emails and really provided a unstructured operational help desk. And over the years, it's had some pretty interesting stories. The thing we wanted was really being used by one of the consortium's board member, Chris Geldart, down in D.C. He was the D.C. Emergency Management Director for many years. He had a huge investment in technology down there that basically stood up an operations center that integrated 3 state EOCs using WebEOC, 15 or 16 counties around the national capital region where they were integrated as well, and the federal government. So that was all of government had to coordinate. If you're the DC emergency manager, you have to coordinate with the fusion centers, the police, the transportation, and every weekend there's a protest, so you've got to get everybody on board at the same time. They used this technology in the first presidential inauguration for Obama in 2008 and have used it ever since. But it provided a number of things. It did security vetting and access at top secret, kind of secret, no secret, public information. They had all different levels of security clearance by role. It was able to produce a honeycomb environment, which the consortium SICE working group has really been on top of. Is each cell of the honeycomb separates people data on a specific problem so that no one user gets access to all the cells. This is a great architecture used by the Defense Industrial Base. We needed that within the Fleet Working Group. Anyway, all that technology, Chris has now left DC government a few months ago and was able to bring that into the consortium. A number of partners provided and donated the equipment. And we were up and running for Harvey part-time, and then really Irma full-time. So that desk brought us 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. through volunteer effort. It allowed us to formally receive and track support calls. We were able to provide situation awareness via dashboard and mobile devices. You can see the picture there. It's got the main screen, and then the mobile device, which is an iPad, gave us access to all kinds of data already funded and paid for by the federal government, which gave us access to critical infrastructure data, transportation data, weather data, all kinds of information that government sees that private sector may not ever see. We produced daily reports, and more importantly, we coordinated better with the states, right? Many of you that were moving assets across state lines noticed it went pretty smooth. Well, there was a lot going on in the background to make that happen, and a lot of it was attributed to the people and the technology we had in place. Some 15 issues we were able to resolve that we tracked, but the big one was we had DT&E, I think it's Detroit Power was stuck in a traffic jam south of Atlanta during Irma. And in 15, we logged it. In 15 minutes, we had the state police chief for Georgia State Police on the phone, and we arranged for a police escort for them. The trouble was when the policeman was coming north on I-75, he found a fleet, but there were about 30-some. The number keeps expanding every time we hear the story, but it was at least 25-plus fleets jammed up with traffic. So they escorted somebody, but there was nowhere to go, so they took them off the ramp, and I guess they rerouted. But at the end of the day, it gave us a new capability to quickly identify, get hold of the driver, the truck, the cell phone number, the mile marker, and we transferred that immediately to state police. So this has really good implications down the future for us to have a real operational help desk with the states. Hydro One was looking for assistance getting across the Canadian border and using with Easy Pass tolls. And for some of you that are from Hydro One or Canadian Utilities, the Easy Pass solution we have is great. You can operate unlimited vehicles under a single transponder. The only problem is it doesn't work for Canadian license plates. They have no way to trace. When you go through the Easy Pass toll booths, they take a picture of your license plate under this program, but they can't trace it back to the Canadian Motor Vehicle Administration. So you have to use cash if you're from Canada at this point. That may change in the future, but right now it doesn't work. And then Rocky Mountain Power had issues with getting waivers quickly, some disaster documentation, and eliminating any issues with way stations, which worked out pretty well for them. This is three of a number of them, but this Ops Center really gave us the technology that we've needed for a long time. And we are leveraging about $35 million of federal and state investment that we don't have to pay for. We get the technology and the software, and we need to come up with a business model to sustain that. But at the end of the day, we're getting a lot of technology at no cost. So now we just have to put a business model together to staff it and utilize it and give people access to it as we go forward. Some of the other outcomes is in the electric sector, we provided a lot of support, certainly expediting the disaster documentation. 7 days in front of the storm, almost 7 days, we were out in front of this. We alerted all the states. We leveraged the EMAC system, which is a email and mutual assistance network, kind of like Ramp Up a little bit, between all the state EMAs. So they share people, information, assets, and so forth. They have legal waiver liability issues in EMAC. And so we were able to get our notice in there, and they notified all the states that this was going to be a big one. We addressed a lot of the waivers for toll and way stations with the National Government Association, the National Emergency Managers Association, DHS, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association, and dozens of other nonprofit groups to help open up the way station issue so there would not be delays there. And I don't think we heard of a single delay at a way station. And we actually had states sending us emails telling them, hey, if they come through Mississippi, tell the drivers don't stop. Drivers were still pulling in because they're trained to do that. So Mississippi wanted us to get the word to the drivers, hey, don't pull in if you're in Mississippi. Just go by the way stations, even if they're open. Hadn't seen that before. I mentioned the Canadian border crossing guidance, thanks to Mike Sapone and members from the NOMAG, work with Canada and the authorities up in the North East from federal government and state government. We got a new process for that. The website's up. And I got to give props to the U.S. DOT. They set up 5 different help desks to help people get across the border. For utilities, I think one was for search and rescue crews, one was for engineering resources. They did a great job. I got to say, we heard about it and we published it on our Storm Central site for everybody to get. We got a lot of information on road and bridge closures, but it wasn't as good as we hoped. But at the end of the day, we've got some new data I'll share with you in just a second. And we did our standard daily periodic fleet movement alerts, but we included a lot of other sector data. Within the consortium, there are probably 6 individuals that sit on numerous calls across numerous federal agencies. We capture that report, we condense it and put it into our daily updates. So you'll notice our updates aren't just about electric sector anymore. They cover food, fuel, access, reentry. We're going to add aviation, chemical, water. Down the stream, we're going to focus this just for our members. We're going to focus this really on a cross-sector thing because we find that that's very helpful to the utilities. We'll be into housing and lodging shortly. It's going to be very exciting what we're able to do with this new technology. We can now grab data that's out there and pull it in, whether it's private or it's sensitive. Rapid solution development. Mike Zappone and I had a good talk about this one. So FEMA approached us to run a work group to come up with a temporary reentry process in Texas to work with the states in FEMA Region 6. So we did. We held basically 3 calls, and in 72 hours, working with NEMA, the National Emergency Manager Association, and the International Emergency Manager Association, IAEM, we were able to develop a quick process, post it up online, and it really worked well. We also got involved with the fuel distribution effort, getting the information out on where there's fuel, locating available housing for workers and citizens in Houston, and a number of other topics. We were able to quickly develop a workaround, get it out there, and get it in place. Operationally, we help coordinate on a number of logistical issues between states and feds, nonprofits, and we're still involved in that within Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Tony Hurley, who's the co-chair of the Fleet Response Working Group, is down in the Virgin Islands now, and John Shaner, former chair of the Fleet Working Group, is down there with him. We found some very interesting technology we're going to support that will allow them to use with anybody with a smartphone down there can download a free app and turns their phone into a video streaming device, and they now can have someone in the field hold up their iPhone, take video of road damage assessments, whatever, and then it streams it via a wireless LTE network back to a dashboard who someone from Central Virgin Islands or the U.S. can watch real-time damage assessment from a cell phone. You can have 3 of them on site, 50 of them on site. It's pretty cool. They tested it down in Houston, and it's working very well. And it's very, very low cost, which is very effective. So some of our emerging initiatives right now that we're certainly working with on the drone topic. I just mentioned that video application I told you about also works with drone cameras. So down in Houston, they were using drone cameras as streaming it back to this central dashboard I was telling you about before to rescue people out of buildings, to do damage assessment, what to actual situation awareness on floods. We're also working on an operational drone initiative with the Pennsylvania Emergency Management and PPL on a mutual assistance pilot. The big idea behind this is they want to use the SICE working group's agreement to put a program together that means government will work with PPL to get PPL drone people in behind the yellow tape immediately, have them fly within the airspace, take pictures, and share those pictures or video with state or local emergency management. So it's a barter. Hey, we'll trade access, if you will, for information. We've had 4 meetings on that, and PPL is very interested, and looks like they're going to go ahead with this. We're working with EEI. Mike Mingus is working with us on this as well. So in the end of the day, we'll have a mutual assistance program that states will be able to implement state by state with their utilities, assuming the utilities want to play. But the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency is already putting up $3 million as part of their Next Gen 911 initiative, where they're going to fly the entire state of Pennsylvania with a drone or a series of drones and get a 6-inch resolution map that they will make available to participants in this program at no cost. And that'll give everybody a base map with 6-inch resolution. It's pretty amazing. So Pennsylvania is really interested in this, and they want to be able to share information, leverage investments to help basically get electric power back on quicker, get the businesses and communities back to normal. I mentioned to you that our Ops Center, we're going to do that Ops Center has much more capability than just the dark sky, which I mentioned, but it also has blue sky capability. It's for virtual exercises. We can do analysis and modeling. So if I lose this piece of equipment, what businesses or things around it are affected? If this happened, what's that? I can assign costs to certain crews to know, hey, what is this fleet movement costing me? It's amazing what they've done down in the District of Columbia on this, and we're going to be able to use that as well. And then when it hits the fan, everyone will know how to use the tool. and it produced executive dashboards. So down there, Chris used an executive dashboard for the mayor of D.C. and the governor of Maryland, governor of Virginia. Each had information was updated real time, and then he had other dashboards for operational level people, with much more detail. But that executive dashboard capability is huge in our world because we have a number of executives we have to keep updated, but we don't need to give them all the details. And then it has a mobile access capability, allows cell phones to get information or smartphones to get information right out of the EOC, and they can update that information. So downstream, if let's say Mike Zapone's out there in the field and he sees something, he opens his app, takes a picture, puts a note, and sends it into the ops center, and immediately everybody's aware that Mike is updated. Nope, that road is open, it's not closed. Hey, those power lines are down, they're not, there's something wrong. And in D.C., they used all the police and all the emergency responders used this during parades and things like that, so they could get real-time ground truth back into the ops center. Really exciting technology, paid for by your tax dollars. So we're really excited to be using that. Mike may have talked to you about SICEnet. Long-term, we see this sensitive information environment using a combination of systems, not replacing anything, but basically being a hub to network all these things together, where we can connect the Fleet Response Working Group Ops Center in Frederick, Maryland to any state EOC, Fusion Center, State Highway Department, just like they did in D.C. Down there, that Ops Center was connected to multiple systems, public and private. The whole point is to expedite information flow, waivers, documents, reentry, all kinds of intel if we need it, and keep it in information organized, which is really important. Keep it organized and safe so only the right people look at the right information. The next item really talks about this R&D effort we're working on. So we're looking at technical solutions for power and transportation in the cybersecurity space. We'll be interviewing some folks here within the electric sector, transportation, looking at requirements for research. And what this is now once we come back to S&T with the requirements, they're going to fund competitive research to produce solutions that we now can be handed back to us to give to you all to test. And it's basically capturing federal research dollars and focusing them on cyber issues in the electric sector. So it's directing research dollars to solve your problems in the electric and transportation sectors. Very excited about that. It's a small step now, but it could turn into a very large endeavor down the road, which we've seen happen in other sectors. And then federal data sets. We had a number of federal data sets become available to us during these last set of storms. I'm going to show you one in a little bit. But certainly new data we're getting on flooding, on road information, other sectors that aren't really relevant here, but I'll show you what these are, what they look like in a minute. But so these are some of the emerging initiatives the consortium is involved with right now. So let me jump into the SICEnet overview. So the SICE working group put together this mission. This is to create a trusted environment. That's the whole purpose, run by the private sector, to distribute synchronized situation awareness for disaster response and recovery to the whole of community stakeholders. So we had about 60 people involved in this, several meetings. So what is the SICE Ops Center capability? This is the framework that we look to utilize within the SICE work group, which is part of the Fleet Work Group, where we bring these various capabilities to the table, blue sky, black sky day. We'll develop a business model for this, but it'll be an annual subscription service, low cost, shared cost. Right now, the federal government's already funded several $100,000, if you will, to begin this, and it looks like another award is coming. They see this very, very importantly, and so they're willing to help build it. They want the private sector to sustain it. So great opportunity for us to leverage investment, but more importantly, provide a new capability run by the private sector to support electric sector, all their contractors, and other sectors, right? Finance, telecom, utilities, transportation. So in a nutshell, what SICEnet looks like is it's going to reach out over time to these stakeholder groups, private sector on top, government, state EOCs, state police, state fusion centers, state DOTs. The whole point is developing, on the right, you'll see the blue arrow, is developing operational use cases. That's what the work group will do. So each sector will have its own group in the way they'll work it. Identify trusted data providers and data sets, organize that data, develop info products, and have year-round planning and exercises of these. So the idea is, as we do this, is to create product that you all can get access to and use very quickly. The model we're going to go to is just a flat fee, and all the new products are no cost, right? Now, we want to keep this very accessible so anybody can become part of this, public or private. I think you'll like it. We're going to have a working group established. If you'd like to be part of that working group, just let Mike Zappone know, or send an email to me, tom.moran@ahcusa.org, and we'll put you on that to help design kind of the model, the cost, and so forth. So our strategy is we're going to link, again, public and private sector, a number of federal government agencies, and a number of the regional national business emergency operations and regional business emergency operations center. At the end of the day, these are the questions that this group will be working. How best to operationalize information, how to keep executives and operational management informed because they need different levels of detail. How do we expedite information flow for logistics and supply chain sectors, which have a little different need than the electric? How to best organize and create integration between government and private systems. How do we do that? Using the honeycomb system that we've designed within the SICE working group. How to best work real-world issues. Let's focus on things that you guys deal with every day instead of hypotheticals, right? How to best organize information into the use cases, and then how best to leverage stakeholders and resources in the blue sky mode. So we're doing year-round, so when it hits the fan, we're not, trying to pull it all together at the last minute. So I want to talk about this, lastly, this new data set we got hold of through U.S. Department of Transportation. Basically, what they're doing is getting data from the private sector, transportation sectors, right? So all these sectors have AVL, or auto vehicle location data, transmitters on top of their big tractor trailers and things like that. Right now, it's about 700,000 commercial trucks. This data is used to give to states to do transportation planning and road growth, right? Once we saw it, we said, that would give us really good information on live road closure and rerouting capability. So we're working to get access to this. It's a federally funded data set. But what this will do is enhance our situational awareness for road closure and reroute. Watch this. So here's an example. These are screenshots, but I've seen this in live data. So what it does, it computes it tracks truck movement, and it's live. It's updated every 10 minutes. So here's an example from the Savannah port. They wanted to find out where does traffic leave when it leaves Savannah port? Where does it go? So here's truck movement out of Savannah port after 24 hours. After 72 hours, you can see it's already got to the West Coast and out into the Midwest and the Northwest. 5 days. This is like blood flowing through the veins. Now, the service is real time. The data set is in real time, so you can watch this happen. So if a western route was closed for some reason, we would know it because you'd see the blood flow stop, if you will. The data flow would stop. Here's an example of Houston, real time on August 20th. Okay, but at midnight, you can see normal flow of trucks. And these lines that are solid are actually hundreds of little tiny dots. Here's what it looked like after the flooding on August 27th. Big difference. Now again, these are screenshots, but the service where the data set would be live. We'd be able to manage this within the SICE or give you access to it to pull it into your system so you can manage it with you and your contractors. Here's Florida in normal operation on September 5th. Here's Florida on September 11th. You can see the storm had a significant impact on traffic, truck commercial routes, as well as roads being used and not used based on flooding, right? So great new data set. This is just going to be one of a dozen new ones we bring into the SICE, and we'll be able to utilize that when we have our next storm. We'll be much better equipped to provide you all with real-time traffic information, along with meshed it with Waze and some of the ESRI data we get. As we get these data layers, it gives us a more granularity to our data sets. So anyway, that's it. I wanted to just give you a quick update. I know I spoke fast. I apologize for hurrying, but I hope this gives you some ideas about where the consortium and its multi-state fleet response working group is going, and some of the technology and data set improvements we made over the last set of storms and where we're going in the future. Thank you.